All right. Tanner Williams, welcome to the show, dude. Thanks for coming in person.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Oh,
Absolutely.
it's a pleasure. It's my pleasure, dude. Thanks for coming in. So, guys, let me give you a rundown on Tanner Williams, okay? How old are you, man?
28.
It's nuts. Okay, so what this guy's done up until this point is amazing. So, first of all, family man,
Yep.
he's gone through the ringer with stuff. He's married to Cameron. So, shout out to you, Cameron Williams. They have one baby.
We do.
Love it. How old?
He's 3. His name's Mac.
Love that. What
Mac's
a good name,
stud.
dude. Freaking
Yeah.
love that.
I was thinking about it because I was a wrestler growing up. I was like, what would look really cool on a bracket one day when kids have to look and be like, crap, I have to wrestle Mac.
Yes.
Dang, that's so that checked the box for sure.
Dude, that Mac was on one of my lists for my boys' names. Unfortunately, my ex-wife did not want it.
There you go. That makes sense.
Great name though. So Cameron is a co-founder of 212. Okay, that's
Tanner is, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Cameron's my wife, but yeah.
So you're the founder.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
one of the co-founders.
Yeah.
Of 212 Solar Agency,
Yep.
solar dealer. You guys do installs too?
We install now, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
We went in-house 2023.
Okay.
So yeah.
Very nice.
Q1, Q2 of 2023.
Okay. And then you guys have around 500 reps.
Yeah.
Cool. Last year, about 150 to 200, did 80 million in sales.
Yeah.
Kicking butt, man. Your momentum is
fun.
amazing. And I love seeing that, you're at 500 and you're on pace for 650 reps.
Yeah.
It's working. You guys got a system. That's amazing. We both came from Aptive Pest Control.
Yeah.
So we're both in direct sales. And you said right off the bat, like, hey, dude, I'm proud about the fact that I came from like being not the best salesperson.
Sure.
You've worked your way up. Now you're phenomenal.
Thank you.
So you're a Golden Door award winner back
Yep.
in 2022
Yep.
for solar.
Yep.
Love that. And just trying to give an overview, guys, for this stud. You've also finished a Spartan race, 2 full Ironmans.
I have, yeah.
And 2 half Ironmans.
I have, yeah.
And then, you were a wrestler in high school. Dude, there's always a correlating theme with like successful reps, I feel like, in wrestling.
I actually, do you know Mikey? Oh my gosh, Mikey Lucas.
Yeah.
I was on his podcast. It was like, I think it's just for Golden Door winners.
Yeah.
You've probably been on it, or you will be soon at least. But yeah, I was listening to a bunch of his podcasts just in preparation to be on that one.
Yeah.
And there were like 6 of them that were all wrestlers at one point. And I was like,
Look at
dang.
that.
So yeah,
Look
wrestlers
at
are studs. They just have to, between like the dieting and just the mental warfare you go through as a wrestler, I think they produce warriors for sure in life.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, let's jump into it, dude. Okay, so your biggest year in solar, back in 2022.
Yep.
The year prior to that, like what led up to that?
Yeah, so that first year, 2021, we had just started. At the time, it was literally called Active Solar still.
Okay.
We had just started. I had a team of like 8 people, very small. We had one other group in Dallas, Texas, I think. So we had less than like 30 reps total in the entire company. And I went out to Denver. I think in my first summer, I did just under 60 installs. So it was like 57 installs, I think. So that year, it was a great first experience with solar. I quadrupled or tripled my best year in earnings prior to that. And obviously my solar belief, my conviction in solar went through the roof after that point, So yeah, that did that. Had big ambitions to recruit. We recruited a lot of people. I happened to be one of the leaders that got to benefit a lot from that because I was just so early on. Got to work with amazing guys. And then that next year went out and led a team with Caleb Patterson. I don't know if you know him, but absolute stud. He ran phenomenal teams in pest control as well. I learned a lot from him on how to just run great teams, but we were able to execute. Him and I both sold 140, 150 accounts in one summer, and I ended up golden dooring because I had a little bit of some blitz stuff to help me. So
yeah, so that's another thing is, dude, you did a solar golden door in 4 months.
Yeah,
which I've broken down the numbers because I've done it myself.
Yeah.
And I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
Okay, mine was in 6 months.
Yeah,
and most people in the industry do it in 12.
That's the thing. Most people that get a golden door, they have 12 months of time, and to get it in 4. It was definitely stressful. I felt the pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I worked harder that summer than I probably ever had. And it was super beneficial. Obviously it was super rewarding, but it was tough.
I love that. Tough. So before you started managing a team, you said you had around 8 people that first summer in solar.
Yeah.
And you quadrupled income. What would that, like, how much were you making?
Yeah, my best summer in pest, I think I made like 140, 150.
Which is great for summer sales.
Yeah, I was super stoked about that. And then that next year I made like 450.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
And then you started managing.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go prove the concept, go attract, go show what you can do, and then build.
Yeah,
I think a
exactly.
lot of guys start building, trying to build too soon, too fast.
Well, and I feel like you have to almost have a story that allows you to have the reputation as like,
Mm,
hey, I can actually manage you because I can help you accomplish your own story.
yeah,
And everybody's story will be a little bit different, but overall, you have to be able to help people do that.
yeah,
And if you don't have your own story, people don't necessarily want to work with you yet.
absolutely, man. No, that's it's an amazing thing. If you go to a lot of seminars, you see the greatest speakers always have a really cool story. Not
For
just the
sure.
greatest speakers, the greatest entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
There's a really inspiring story behind what they're doing, and it rallies people together,
Yeah.
and it helps people relate. And so I think it's an amazing thing for me. Your story is really cool. So from the little I've gotten so far, I'm excited to dive more into it. But
Yeah.
you have a story of going from like, hey, being a good sales rep to like phenomenal, you
Yeah.
know. And for me, I've always done really good, which I haven't always had like a comeback, like come up like, hey, I used to be crap, and so here, not crap, but decent, and then come up and then crush.
Yeah, I remember seeing you at the top at the active leaderboards back in the day, and I don't think I ever saw you halfway down the pole. It was always at the top.
But dude, it's interesting because there's always ways to, if you don't humble yourself, God will humble you. And
For
so,
sure.
um, my divorce, my story, the pain I'm going through was that was it for me.
Yeah.
And when I went from victim to victor, that's when it clicked. And when I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and what for me, the rocket fuel to be able to perform at that level. And I think you've got it, and I'm be curious to hear what your fuel was.
Yeah.
But for me, Tanner, it was inspiring other people. Like I was broken, lost. I've been successful, and being a based again. I'm like, cool, this is awesome. Like I changed my perspective after being in pity for months. Of cool, now guys can actually like say, hey, this guy's not just he's always been the best. Like
Yeah.
I got a based, and to build myself back up was a journey. And then for me, what
Sure.
it was building myself in multiple avenues, my health, my relationships, and then my wealth, of course, too,
Yeah.
and the sales goals. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, that's awesome.
What was some of the fuel for you, like to that year that you crushed it?
Yeah, it was interesting because I went through something very similar to what you had said. We started Active Solar. That summer was our first summer, and then right after that, September, my wife served me divorce papers, and that was yeah, that's brutal. As you know,
Yeah.
that was one of those things where, um, I was coming off a pretty high income year. I felt pretty stoked that I had a great
Yeah.
first summer of solar. I don't know about you, but when I switched from pest to solar, I was kind of scared that I was just a one trick pony, and that I
Mm,
wasn't going to be able to perform at a high level in solar.
mm,
And then I did. So that was like a huge confidence boost for me. I was like,
yeah.
okay, I can transcend just pest control. I'm a good salesman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not just a good bug salesman. So that was I was on a pretty high confidence level at that point. And then yeah, it got a swift kick to the nuts with that, and just going through that divorce process and mediation and just trying to figure things out. It's messy. It's not fun. And we were in our first real year of starting that company, and I was a major role player within the leadership of the company, having to go to work and put your face on that everything's fine. And
Yeah.
most people
I know
didn't even
this,
know I was
like,
going through that for months because I
yeah.
was like too embarrassed to even talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
My closest friends knew, and that was about it. So that was exhausting, just really tiring. And I think I took that as a, hey, even though I'm going through something really difficult right now, most people would maybe use this as an excuse to, hey, I just can't do this. And I'm not saying that, you're weak if you took your
Right.
foot off the gas during a really hard time of life. But for me, it was just, hey, I want to do the opposite. And maybe that was a way of coping for me too, was get lost in something that I can really be passionate about. And yeah, I just went all in on that. And I was like, well, I'm going to make this the best comeback story ever. And I'm going to try to be the best dad. I'm going to try to have a great co-parenting relationship with
Nice.
her, all these things. And I'm going to try to do life well. And there were a lot of things that I didn't do well during that time. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I think I had just this burning passion to go do even more, despite everything I had been thrown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was my motivation. And then we ended up, before the summer, we ended up working things out and actually getting back together. And she was amazing. Like I think that her ability to see past all the problems that our relationship had gone through over that nasty time and still want to work things out. Like really humbled me, and we just made it work. And our marriage hasn't been perfect, but it's been amazing. And it's been one of the best, most proudest things I am, or sorry, it's been one of the things I'm most proud of
Yeah.
in my life, just because obviously it's hard. Marriage is hard. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
anyway, being able to have all that fuel, like, hey, I'm going to go dominate and work, but then having her support as well, because then we got back together, we were married, we were back together during the summer. I was almost untouchable at that point. Like,
Yeah. Was that the year
getting
you
a golden
got,
door was done.
was that the 2022?
That was the 2022.
And so you'd done that after you guys got back together?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were divorced, or, separated, working our way towards divorce the entire off season of solar,
Yeah.
recruiting, all that fun stuff. And then we got back together right before the summer. And then that just catapulted into massive success. I don't know if I would have been able to do a golden door having been separated.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have, I don't know.
And maybe you could have, but at what cost?
Exactly.
I
wouldn't have seen my kid ever, probably, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
It's amazing when you can do those feats, but then still grow in other areas of the life.
Yeah.
And, dude, it's, the partner of somebody that's in the pursuit of excellence, like being a partner, and it goes both ways. Like, there's a superpower that you're endowed with when you're all in together.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned untouchable,
Yeah.
like it was already done.
Yeah.
And I feel like when somebody's bought into you and they believe in you at that level, especially your one,
yeah,
it's amazing. There's a distinct advantage, your confidence, you're radiating. Doesn't mean everything's perfect.
Sure.
Right. But there's I feel like every man's superpower is the woman behind him.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Props to Cameron.
Yeah. No, she's a freaking stud. Yeah. No, she helps me a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Well, that you mentioned the transcending pest control industry.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a limiting belief that people they get into one sales job and maybe they figure it out, especially like an easier one like pest control.
Sure.
And they're just like, I'm really good at selling pests.
Yeah.
So how'd you break that? Did you just take the plunge? Like, what was it like?
Yeah, there was a couple things that led up to it. I think number one, I had an immense amount of conviction in solar, and I thought it was an amazing product. I feel like it really helps me when I know that what I'm selling is going to help my customer. Like, that's just easy. And I'm not saying that pest control can't do that, but right, I just found a lot more often I was just, I was selling it because I believed in my dreams, and my dreams happened to require financial excellence. And so I need to go sell pests, Yep. And you'd find the people that had a bunch of ants in their kitchen. And they were like, "You're a godsend." I'm not saying that didn't happen, but solar, I feel like every single time I talk to somebody, I'm like, I can put you in a better position, and I have full control of that.
Yeah, I
can lower my price a little bit, or I can do whatever it is to put someone in a good position.
Yeah.
So that was huge. I think that was massive for me, just knowing that conviction is important. But I also just had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I think a lot of people had always looked at me as like, hey, obviously Tanner's above average, but I always kind of saw myself, and I felt like a lot of people saw me as like below average of the above average people.
I love that.
I always pick up on things very quickly. Like, I remember with sports, I would pick it up very fast, but like mastering it took me, I felt like, longer, and the progression just seems so slow. And I would always get frustrated with myself, and I'd be like, well, I'm just going to be like a below average, above average person for life. And then I remember I was at a leadership conference, and somebody was speaking, and he was excellent at what he was doing. And I was looking at him like, he put his pants on the same way I did today. Like, he's just a normal human being. I remember watching him stutter over words in his training. And I was like, this is the guy that I look at as like a god almost when we were out in the summer. And he's just like a normal dude. And this question just kept on coming to my mind, like, why not me? Why not you? Why not you? Why not you? And I was like, yeah, why not me? So I finally just kind of, in a way, bucked up, I think, and just like, you can do big, hard, difficult things and stop limiting yourself to kind of like what you were saying with transcending industries. I think I was limiting myself to the type of performer I was going to be. And once I took the lid off that, like, yeah, I started accomplishing things way faster. But I was also willing to pay a bigger price. I think that is true. It correlated. I had to do things that I had never done before.
How so?
Training and investing in myself personally. Like, I started spending not just like hundreds, but like tens of thousands of dollars into coaching and getting mentorship. I did Taylor McCarthy's Knockstar program for 18 months. There's a lot of things that I did to invest into myself. I started doing marathons, Ironman, stuff like that to like push myself in areas that I'd never pushed myself before. And then all of a sudden the results started happening. And it wasn't a shock to me because I was like, I feel like I've I've been paying the price required to accomplish this. I didn't feel like I deserved it, but I felt like, hey, I'm doing things to make myself become better. And those things just keep on compounding at this point, which is fun.
Oh, absolutely, man. Dude, there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah, sorry, I talked
So
for a while.
no. This is gold. So I narrowed what you said down to 4 things. Tell me if this is right.
Yeah,
Conviction,
for sure.
chip on the shoulder, power and proximity and seeing other guys do something. You're like, hey, this guy's human. Like I always put him on a pedestal. Like
Yeah,
he's a chump.
yeah.
Look at him. He's doing that. Why am I not doing it?
Yeah,
And then investing in yourself.
yeah. No, that's it.
Would you say it happened in that order? The chip on the shoulder is usually like the first thing.
I would say the chip on my shoulder was pretty big.
What that
it came from I feel like it came from the proximity, the power of proximity, because I was surrounding myself with people, or I didn't even purposely surround myself with more people. I just found myself around people that I was very impressed by all the time.
Yeah.
But I put them at a level of like, oh, I can't do that though.
They're another level. I mean? Yeah.
I'm just Tanner and they're Nick, and then, but that led to the chip on my shoulder, I think, of being like, well, no, I could do that.
How many years was that like that you were kind of in that phase of just performing like high, but not like top level?
Yeah. Like 4 years, I think.
So that's interesting to me.
Because my rookie year, I did 70 accounts in like 3 weeks. I only sold for 3 weeks my first year because I got back from my mission like halfway through the summer, things like that.
Which
I
is
did
really
7
good.
accounts in 3 weeks, and people were like telling me, "Oh, that was amazing," and I was like, "Cool." And then in my next couple of years, I was always like a high performer on my teams, but yeah, like I wasn't competing with Nick. I wasn't outselling you guys. So yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, but what I'm infatuated with is like it took a couple of years before you just popped off.
Yeah. Well, it actually took me 2 years from like the first time that I had that thought of like, why not me?
Yeah.
I still sold 1 more year of pest control. I still sold 1 more summer of solar before I got my golden door. So like that even took me 2 years to get to like really believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you go back, how old were you back then? Like what, 23-ish?
Yeah.
If you go back and mentor your 23-year-old self, or that time when you're doing pest control, maybe your second year in, to try to get you to what you've done now to get there faster, what would you tell your younger self?
I would have I would tell myself to start believing in yourself, like faster, harder, more. You know what I mean? I think there was a lot of self-limiting beliefs that I had, but I also would have said, but you need to earn that. So start doing things to earn that trust faster, because I was the kid that I was like, oh, I'm going to wake up and go to the gym at 6, and then my alarm would go off and I wouldn't go to the gym till like 7:38. So it's like, I didn't earn that self-trust to actually act on my personal belief until later. So I would try to progress that timeline. I also would have said, stop worrying so much about investing into real estate and all these things that you're not qualified for yet, and dump that money into personal training and mentors and coaches. Because
dude, you're not just saying this because you've heard all my podcasts and stuff, right?
No, I'm not. I really was so infatuated with buying my first house, but I wrote off so much in taxes that I couldn't. And so I just sat there with this money in my account for 12 months because I couldn't qualify for a house. And my parents are awesome. They're amazing. They weren't in a position to like co-sign with me. Like I didn't have, that kind of opportunity that some of my friends had to co-sign with their parents, whatever, in their first home. So I just sat there waiting, and I'm like, dang, if I could have put that 60, 70 grand into coaching earlier when I had almost no expenses as like a single dude, how much better could I have gotten so much faster? Yeah. That question rings in my head.
I think when you start seeing what other people are doing, you get the proximity, you change your environment. That's like step 1 for me.
Yeah.
You get around them, you realize, hey, there's nothing too special about them.
Yeah.
And, if you pay, to get higher proximity, you find out how they're doing what they've done.
Exactly.
And, I mean, if you make 100K and you invest that into real estate, with time compounding, you can make a ton of money.
For sure.
But real estate's usually a double-digit ROI game. Yeah. You get into self-help, you have the potential to get into quadruple digit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and on conservative end, triple digit.
For sure.
And so that's the power, is we can increase our active income, which if you can increase that year to year, then you got more to invest continually.
Now you can make bigger investments and stuff like that, not just like a single family or home, but you can get into some big boy investments.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think, why do you think people, I've talked about this on other podcasts, like, because we've always gone back to this like self-help thing, and like, hey, I would have hired a coach sooner. Where do you think people like hold themselves back from actually pulling the trigger on something like that. Because maybe they see other guys
Yeah.
doing it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's two things. One, I've had friends who like I've signed up for coaching stuff and they're like, no, like, and I've been like, dude, you should do it with me or whatever else. And they're like, no, like, I don't really like that stuff or whatever else. And, you know, maybe they just don't like it. That it's,
Yeah.
maybe it's one of those things where for me, I'm just like, there's always something I can be learning. And one of my buddies actually told me, he's like, dude, you're an easy sell for all these like coaches. Like you just sign up. And I think in the beginning, like I probably didn't vet people enough and I just signed up because I was like, there's always something I can learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I went into them with that mentality and I learned every single time, you
Nice.
know? Now I look at it like I'm just always willing to do that. So I think some people are like maybe a little bit more prideful in a sense that like they need to like strip themselves of the pride that like holds them back and like know that, yeah, you could learn something from other people.
That.
I think some people are scared to make the financial investment too. It's like, well, what if me putting $5,000 into this coaching doesn't actually pay me back? It's like, well, the only reason I think that wouldn't happen is if you don't actually go through like the coaching process.
Exactly.
If you actually pay attention though, and you implement even like one or two of the strategies, you're probably going to make your money back. You know what I mean?
Dude, literally when I go into a mastermind or something, like I'm like, I just need one thing.
Exactly.
One thing. I'm not looking for a bunch of different ideas. I'm looking for one thing that has the potential to move the needle, you know?
So I'm always front row with my notepad. I'm ready to take notes and stuff because I'm like, that's all I need. I just need one aha moment to take me to the next level. And
the humility is there. You recognize, hey, there's something I can learn from these guys.
Yeah.
I've seen that consistent theme with, you know, top achievers.
For sure.
That the humility is there. They don't think they're too hot. And, you know, to that level, they can continue to embrace that. Cause I hit a plateau in my career because of that. I'm like, I thought I was hot stuff.
Yeah.
Sure enough, I plateaued.
Yeah.
And so I now continually seek out mentorship and learning from proximity, you know, from people who have been where I want to go.
For sure.
And those people you got to pay, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that lesson goes back as far as like freaking elementary school wrestling for me. Like these kids that just smacked the crap out of me when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And by the time we were seniors in high school, I was like toying with them because at a certain point they were so much better at like a younger age that they just stopped practicing, but I kept practicing and kept getting better. And eventually, if you don't, no matter how good you are, no matter how much God-given talent you have, if you stop doing the things that make you really, really good every single day, you're gonna get passed up by the kids who you thought you would never have to even worry about. And I found myself on the opposite side of that spectrum, and I was like, I never want to be where my buddy was that I'm now toying with simply because I was outworked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway,
dude, I just there's a principle that you can live by. Just be the dumbest guy in the room.
Exactly.
And if you're the smartest, like eventually it'll get to a point where you keep leveling up and you'll be one of the best in the room. But that means you got to get yourself into other rooms.
A different room. Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. Those rooms you got to pay to, you know, be the dumbest guy or really make the extra effort to network.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with events. Go to events. You know, it's a good, cheap, middle of the ground way to do it.
Seriously. Just because even the people that you find there that are also willing to be humble enough to pay some money to go to an event, even those guys are great networking people. Even if you don't get in with like the keynote speaker right away, you start networking with people who are also trying to achieve higher level things than what they are at that point, and that becomes your friend group.
Yeah.
I have friends that I've made in, you know, from Knockstar or whatever else that I see them at all the same events every year. I'm like, it's interesting that they're also the top performers in solar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like all the guys who are not willing to go because they're like, oh, it's not going to be that helpful. They're still not there because, and they're still not making the money that they want to make. And they're still not in the position that they want to be in because it's just interesting. You know,
it is
even just like a $300 event that you can go
Crazy.
to, they're like not willing to do it. And
so
they
nuts,
stay where they're at.
Yeah. Stay locked in so there's a number in my mind. It's usually $250,000. If you're making less than 250K, you should not be trying to acquire new skill sets like real estate investing or day trading, because it's going to distract you.
Sure.
If your main source of income is what you're passionate about and you see the trajectory and you know people are doing well at it and you know the potential's there and you're making less than $250,000, I think you should go all in on mastering that skill, get up to that level. Then once you're there, then you can start entertaining other opportunities for yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree. I think you can even probably go higher because
I think
$250,000
is like baseline.
$250,000 is not that much
It's
money
not
anymore.
That much money,
it's actually really sad because back in the day when I was like 20, I was like, dude, if I one day make $250,000, I have made it. You know?
I know, right?
And now I'm like, frick.
Yeah, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not that much money. So anyway, no, I think that's good though for sure. Like, I I think it's Alex Hormozy always talks about it. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah.
If you can get really good at what you're doing and just go all in on one thing,
Stay
you
niche.
can get to $1 million
Yeah.
of earnings, and then you can start, diversifying and things like that. But yeah, get really freaking good at a skill that is, and if it's transferable, then even better, right? Because now you don't even have to learn a bunch of new skills. You can just go apply it to different avenues and still make great money.
Yeah,
but no, I think that's smart.
Dude, you mentioned like belief in self. Like if you go back and mentor yourself, like believing yourself more. So obviously talking about personal development, that's a way to help with that.
Yeah.
For me, I'll just kind of ramble here, then tell me your thoughts on this, and then how you think you can increase your self-belief, and how you coach yourself back then. But for me, I see guys set huge targets, which I love, but then fall short. Like let's say the goal's $500,000, they make 250K.
Right.
Versus a guy who sets a goal for 250K and then smashes 250K.
Right.
They hit the same target, but there's a difference between the two and where they're going in my book.
Yeah.
Because when the other guy, the second guy says, I'm going to go do 350K, he believes he's going to do it.
Right.
When he says he's going to go run a Ironman, he believes he's going to do it. Or the other guy, he may set a big target, it might be super big, but he'll still fall short.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that, for lack of a better term, it's just a dick measuring contest where they're like, I just want to say my goal is really big too. You know what I mean? If your goal is genuinely $500,000, you're going to do the things necessary to become a $500,000 earner. And that's where I feel like you start making your goals.
Yeah.
I think Andy Holmes talks about that all the time, and I love that. Andy's got some good nuggets there. Like, become a Golden Door winner before you ever win a Golden Door.
Yeah.
And then you'll actually hit it, right?
Yep.
If I know that my goal is to make $500,000, but I just said it because Nick's goal was to make $1 million and I don't want to look like a freaking pansy or something, then, it's not actually my goal. And I just need to be honest with myself.
Yeah.
I think half the time people can scrap the shitty goals that they make by just not having to compare themselves to other people and make a goal that's true to themselves.
Part of that is making it an identity based.
Exactly.
If you can attach who you like want to be versus like make $500,000.
Yeah.
Golden Door winner, that's identity based.
Exactly.
It's easier for you to walk into that because you can focus on the process to get there, not just the prize.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's money. If you become that type of person, if I had a goal to become a Golden Door, which I did, I was like, well, what are the Golden Door winners doing? And they were working harder than I was for sure. So I was like, well, okay, I need to start working Golden Door hours. I was always telling my wife that she'd get not mad, but she'd be like, dang, I really wish you weren't getting home at 11 every night. Like, the Golden Door hours, man, I got to get home at, I got to get those 9:00 appointments because they're always going to sit.
Yep.
And they're always easier sales because they're the ones that never get found. So I'm gonna go to every 9:00 meeting, and if that means I don't get out of the house till 10:30 and I don't get home till 11, like that's just the price that I'm willing to pay right now. Right?
Nice.
Whereas in the past I was like 8:30, I should go home, get dinner with the wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting perspective. You could see those as like low hanging fruit with that perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And then, that investing in yourself is awesome. I love that. Don't worry, don't chase the distractions of like investing in real estate and stuff. I think a lot of guys fall in that, that bucket.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's a phenomenal thing. True wealth is built through real estate and investing. That's absolutely the game. But a lot of the very wealthy people that have built those empires also make more than, and they had years in their career making well over $500,000.
Well, and there's so many ways, like buy your first FHA, first time home buyer home.
Absolutely.
Get into the easy, low hanging fruit investments. Don't be dumb, but at the same time, people get so transfixed on, I want to buy this fourplex and whatever else, and then they don't actually get better at selling. Yeah, it's like, well, if you just got your active income to the point to where you could buy that fourplex easier, then that'd be that's the easier way to do it. Yeah, it's actually going to serve you more long term too.
Well, dude, the other thing too is in the process of investing in yourself like that, you're learning other things that are going to grow you.
Exactly.
And that if you go back and mentor yourself, you'd say, hey, like I would increase my self-belief, And for me, why I talk about like setting the target and hitting it is because internal, there's this dialogue saying, I do what I set my mind to.
I hit my goals.
And that guy's unstoppable.
For sure.
And when you do that repeatedly, you don't have to say anything to people. People know, okay, this person's different.
Yeah.
And that's how you attract people, which is how you build businesses, which you can also speak for.
Yeah. You have to do it. You have to say what you're going to do, and then you have to actually do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that I have learned about self-belief for me was hitting accomplishments and stuff like that was definitely helpful to boost my confidence. But waking up at the time that I told myself I was going to wake up, like people say, I think there's like I think Alex even talks about it. Like, you don't have to wake up at 5 to be successful.
Yeah.
You just have to do what you say you're going to do.
There you go.
Because that's where you start to build
Yeah.
the confidence. And,
Yep.
I learned that, way, way, way young. I just didn't really start acting on it as much until I wanted to get serious about my goals. So,
dude, a lot of people, will blame people around them for not being bought into their goals and what they're striving to do. They just say, hey, if I just had more support, if I had more training,
right.
Dude, if you would believe in yourself more, take more action, you'll get more.
Yeah.
And I'm a like laser focused on that principle, like attract instead of chasing.
For sure.
If you want more, become more. And part of building that self-belief is just whatever your target is, just hit it. If your spouse isn't bought into you, why would she or why would he if you don't do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to make 6 figures and you make 90K. Dude, you fell short.
Right.
So I think the falling through on commitments it's part of character,
Yeah.
And there's self-confidence, which we always portray confidence as salespeople, but true, like the next level is understanding your self-worth. And that comes rooted from, hey, when I tell myself I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah.
And if you fall short of targets, also not shaming yourself, like just accept it, own it, but then commit to something you can do and then raise the bar.
Yeah.
I remember when I did a lot of accounts at Pest at Aptive, I had guys come in and say, hey, dude, I want to do like 500. And at first I'd say, oh, let's do it. Like, you can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
And I was actually derailing them. I didn't realize that, but by like saying, hey, I believe in you, you can do this, I was not helping them out.
Yeah.
Because they were naive to how much work I put in.
Yeah.
And so I learned the hard way. And then the following year, my gut people did a lot better.
Yeah.
And I lowered their targets, lowered the expectations, but drastically increased the inputs.
Yeah.
And then we started building positive momentum where, hey, guys, we're on track. Their goal was, let's say 250, right? Or the expectation. But because they started doing 3, 4, 5, 6 a day, boom, we raised the target to 500.
Yeah. No, it's so much better for probably the mental health as well.
Yeah.
Of people.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's money. I think I've seen a couple examples where they had these super ambitious goals and people like, like the rah culture of sales sometimes, like, you can do it. You can do anything. And it almost is a disservice to them if they're not actually teaching them the exact steps of how to do it and asking them, are they okay with that?
Yep.
I do this thing with my teams actually every year where I try to have them set the standards for their own team, right? Because if they've set it, now I can hold them accountable to their own standards.
Yep. Co-creation.
And exactly. And so I'll ask them, what their goals are, things like that. And every year, instead of saying, cool, yeah, we can absolutely 1000% do this, I say, sweet, that's a very lofty goal. I want to be very real with all of you right now. Like that's not easy at all. And what it's going to take is this. And then at the end I say, are you guys okay with that? And there have been times when people are like, I don't know. I'm like, if I can't get buy-in from every single person on this team, like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then, maybe some peer pressure comes in, they'll say yes or whatever. But a lot of times they'll lower the goal slightly. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather them commit to something that they are actually going to commit to.
Yeah,
and then, it usually will take care of itself in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love that, man. So let's transition into leadership recruiting if you're down.
Yeah.
So you guys have a lot of people there. What things have you learned in the last couple of years since you've blown up?
Yeah.
You've managed over 1,200 installs this last year or so?
Yeah, we did about 1,000-ish installs each year the last 2 years. So
nice.
Yeah.
What's been big? What's been some of the big takeaways from you from transitioning and growing as a leader in the sales industry?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that I really did learn was leading from the front is so crucial.
In what ways?
Honestly, in sales volume for me, when I was leading those direct teams, if I wasn't absolutely dominating them in like every way, then they weren't going to be performing at the level that I wanted them to perform at. I really learned like people will do about 50% of what you do well, and 100% of what you do wrong. And so like my first team, that 2021 summer compared to my record breaking Denver summer, very different work ethics on my part, because I knew, hey, like I have eyes are all on me the entire time. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people take like the manager card and they'll say, oh,
write it off as an excuse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you truly manage systems and lead people, you don't have to do all the manager stuff, and you can hire people to do the stuff that takes away your time to just go perform.
Yeah.
And there's a time and season for that. Like now my job is I have to inspire leaders to go do that. And I can't just like, my time is not best spent running like one singular team anymore, you know, but in that time it definitely was. And so that was huge. I always kind of took the manager card in pest control. I think, oh, I have to do this today. And so that's going to take time off the doors and whatever else. And like my team's performance would drop. But when I went and got a golden door, all the people went up in performance. And then the next year we had like 10 people sell over 100 accounts in a summer.
Look at that.
And I was like, okay, like that really does work. So that was huge.
So leading from the front, high tide rises all ships.
Yeah.
I love that.
That is real.
I love that. Yeah. A lot of people have that limiting belief, like, hey, look, I don't have the time. Like I've got to answer all these texts.
Yeah.
And I've got to do all these things. And then so they start writing off excuses. And I feel like it starts with like, they don't want to do the work.
For sure.
So they're looking for reasons. And I think it starts not with the management, but like, what are they wanting? What, because you find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's like when you go buy a certain type of car, you're going to notice that car everywhere. It's because you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Good or bad, you have negative thoughts, you'll start manifesting those. And so it's so critical that we watch that.
Yeah. No, it is huge. One other thing about leadership that I feel like I actually kind of took this more from, I feel like Kobe in a way, but it was just more getting people more bought in on the processes, regardless of the outcome.
Nice.
And I think Vess actually talks about staying in the middle all the time. Like that was one thing that I remember learning my very first summer from Vess, and every year he would talk about staying in the middle. And
not
I remember
getting too high, not getting too low.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Kobe would always talk about like, there's two types of winners. There's the winner that hates losing. There's the winner that loves winning, and both of them are bad. Because the guy who loves winning, like deep down, he fears losing. And if you're just playing out of fear of loss, then like good luck. And then anyway, you know where I'm going with that, but you can watch Kobe and how he played, and that's really is how he played.
Yeah.
And then being able to apply that to like a team where kids are selling 5 one day and their teammates selling 0, their car partners selling 0. And like, the mental warfare of door to door is ruthless on these kids. And they're 21, 22. They're just fighting tooth and nail sometimes out there, and helping them really buy into the, hey, get married to the process and divorce the results. I feel like that's one of the best leadership things that you can do, is really instill that belief into people, because you can talk about it, but really instilling that
it's
is huge.
It's one of our core values. It's how big it is for me. That also goes to not just like how you conduct your work and your expectations and goals, but also how you sell. Yeah. If you're married to getting a sale, that's not good. You become manipulative. You're going to get down when they don't buy. Like no matter how good you are with people, you're not going to force people to buy. Exactly. And so to some extent, you got to be married to the results the process, not the results. Yeah. Do not be married to the results, guys. That is a recipe for disaster. And it's interesting when you think about it, because it's like, well, results are the goals. Like I want to do X, I want to perform X. But remember what we said about the identity-based goal. If you have an identity-based goal, your likelihood of achieving it goes through the roof. Exactly. Especially if you have a plan in action. And so the process, like the prize looks like you're out of control. Like you don't get a sale, you're at the low of the solar coaster, right? In our industry. And the way, also for the high achiever, you make 30,000 in a day, right? It's cool. On to the next day. In fact, for me, I get hard on myself thinking I didn't knock enough today. Tomorrow's going to be dry after making 30 grand in a day. Yeah. And I stay in that lane. And part of what helped me, I don't know about you, so this is what made it easier, was the pain of other stuff. And, having chips on my shoulder, things like that. And being married to the process and who I was becoming made it easy for me to just put the results to the side. For sure. Yeah, I actually found that my summer where I was performing at the highest level and reaching Golden Door, like half the time I didn't really even know where I was at as far as like on the scoreboard until at the end of the week, just because I was so fixated on the next, what's next? Meaning like I was not worried about the outcome of whatever interaction I just had, because it was just on to the next one. Yeah. Right. And I remember I was up against our other team leader. His name's Caleb. I mentioned him earlier. Yeah. We both sold 17 accounts in like 3 days, and neither of us knew what was going on as far as each other's performance, because we were so locked in. Yeah. And our team watched that and they were like, dang, that was crazy.
And our
That's
team's
cool.
production just went through the roof after that because
Yeah.
when you're so married to like just, hey, I want to become this type of person and this type of performer, you're able to really buy into that and actually put all the distractions aside, which is that roller coaster that so many people just, they quit solar, they quit door to door, they quit sales in general because they can't handle that ride, which you don't have to ride it. You can step off that ride.
Yeah, so true, man. You can step off the ride. I love that. Yeah, staying in the middle, that's gold.
Huge.
The expectations too with like when you get married to the result, there's a lot of problems with that. And I don't know why this happens to so many reps, but you really have to have this like etched in your soul, like to go after it and know your KPIs, your stats. Like, yeah, I mean, we talk about this in sales, like being in control of the conversation through asking questions is what you want, right?
Yeah.
Who has the control usually gets, it determines whether or not you get the sale or not.
Right.
And it's the same with, our life in sales in the sales profession, where if you are just going for the highs of the sale, you're like, hey, we set a goal to sell X amount in a day or X amount in a week. You can have that. But dude, for me, I don't know about you. I literally, I will actually only set targets based on input based actions.
Yeah.
So I'll set like a weekly target, but for the day, for my day goals, I almost never set an outcome based target.
Yeah.
It's all
you
input.
Can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can to a certain extent, but it doesn't drive the same result.
Yeah. I think the magic between the difference in why one performs better is consistency.
For sure.
It's because I can go home at getting 0 and still feel like a winner.
Yeah.
Because I followed the process. I know if I follow the process long enough, even at a lower level of talent, I'm still going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Because time will always be on your side in a way. Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's huge because so many people will like look at their goal. I remember there's an example of this kid that was like, I want to do 900 as a rookie. And so he broke it down to like, all right, I need to get this many every day. And then obviously he was not performing at that level every day. So he's like, now I have to do 20 every day. And I'm like, oh dude. Come on.
Then it's just like this mountain, like he's looking at Everest saying this is impossible.
Yeah. But if you actually match about, hey, all I have to do is match X inputs every day. For me, it was like, I need to wake up and I gotta get some exercise in so my body's ready to rock. And then my goal was I need to get 6 doors in between every appointment because that will make sure that I'm actually doing my job of trying to get some self gens as well, leading from the front, getting some appointments, getting some bills. And so I just really stuck to that. Yeah. And that was my way of knowing if I was winning or losing on the day as far as like, hey, what are Tanner's outputs? What are Tanner's inputs and what are they going to lead to? And that was huge. So I learned that from Mike O'Donnell because I think his was like, I want to get 1 no or whatever. So I was like, well, I'll just knock 6 doors at least around every appointment. And now I teach that to all the guys. And like the people who do that, they have 15 to 20 self gens per summer, even if they're 100 level sales rep. Because you're naturally going to find that. You know? And that's a huge skill. So input based goals, so important because they're the only things you can actually control.
Which means, you being in control means you go into something setting a target and you have belief that you're going to do it and you actually do. Exactly. And which transcends to other aspects of life. That's awesome, Dan. That's gold. What you said, that is, I was doing 30 months self-genning in solar here in Utah. And this was exactly how I did it. Was I so much believed in this like act of input that I would show up late to appointments. I'm like, even if I got to an appointment, I was like 5-10 minutes late. I would still go knock and get the input to train my mind, the muscle to go get the rejection and then just play the game. And, it's interesting because of that, I actually completely changed how I scheduled appointments with prospects. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to be here at 2:30 PM, I said, hey, you're going to be lucky if I show up sometime between 2:30 and 4. Can't guarantee it. See, the dynamic is so different. And so because I followed that input and I had to like it wasn't clear. I'm like, how I had all these excuses. I'm like, well, they're going to get pissed off or this. Right. And everything actually worked out to my favor because I learned a new system of scheduling that was at a higher level of efficiency.
Yeah. That's actually funny because we had to do the exact same thing to where now, like I was that big guy that was like, oh, let's set just like on the hour. We have to set those schedules. And then we ended up doing it to where, like, I'm going to be here sometime between 6 and 7. Like I have an arrival window of an hour because that's just the way my job is. And that actually allowed us to, like you said, work at a higher level of efficiency and not have those customers that do occasionally get pissed off and not hear you out anymore because you were 5 minutes late or whatever. And now I'm truly the professional, always in charge. I'm the guy, like they're making time for me to come to
It
their house
sets
between
it
an
sets the
hour.
stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. The like
I love that though.
us setting the appointments that way too, man. Like you could send in another rep, and there's a distinct advantage between that time frame appointment versus I'm going to be here at X time.
Exactly.
And a lot of people say, well, be punctual. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But if you set the expectation of flexibility up front because you're in high demand,
Yeah,
dude, it's a different story.
for sure.
You
And
know?
the customer is like, oh crap, I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
like the guy I'm dealing with is legit.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I actually love that. That's funny.
Yeah.
I've actually got a lot of like grief, or I've had people push back on that idea, and so I love that you did it too.
Yeah.
It's weird.
You got my thumbs up.
Two golden door winners do it. You might want to try it.
Yep. You got my thumbs up, man.
Absolutely.
They give you crap about, I'll call.
I love that.
I love it, Tanner. Dude, anything else that we should throw in that you want the audience to hear?
Just in general?
Yeah. This has been awesome.
Yeah, this has been really good. No, I just feel like, there's enough people out there that I think with like the way social media is right now, you have access to watch very successful people every day.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll laugh. Some days I'll find that my Instagram feed or whatever is less productive than others, but some days it'll just be like, I'm like these guys are all just multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs that are pulling up on my screen. And I'll find myself in this sense of like, oh, I am not there yet. And like almost getting down on myself. And I think that's totally fine. Like I just listened to Wes Pearson with Casey Baugh on their podcast. And I love it because Wes is worth, dude, so much money. And he's, for a lot of us, we look at him like, dude, that guy has made it. He's like a bishop, executive, worth tens of millions of dollars. He's going to be worth a lot more than that probably pretty soon. All this stuff. And I'm like, dude, he's him in a way. And he's like, yeah, like, I just feel like I haven't made it. And I'm like, frick, dude. It's like everybody feels that way. And I think everybody feels inadequate.
Yeah.
Even the guys that you're watching on social media that look like they have it all.
They all have that. It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. We all feel that inadequacy. And the only difference between you and like the person that you're watching on Instagram or the person in your life that's like made it in quotes is their ability to take action and say something about it. So many people sit there feeling inadequate and then they just don't do anything about it. It's like, that's one thing that I feel like I really have learned over the last 4 years, especially taking that transition into solar and helping start a company, is I felt very inadequate. I had no track record. I didn't have near the resume that even someone like you would have had 4 years ago. And I was able to take those cards and play a pretty good hand, but it's because I just stayed in the game long enough.
Yeah. And look at that, dude. Now you're in some ways ahead of me. Look at that.
But
that's pretty sweet.
It's been fun.
That's awesome, Tanner.
So just stay in the game and start playing.
Well said, dude. Well said.
Yeah.
Just take action, dive in. There's never going to be a perfect time or perfect moment. You know, there's the perfect opportunity is never going to come. You just got to create it. You got to go. Yeah. And it's going to be uncomfortable. So this is something I do within our company and our culture, is doing uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
Because on the other side of uncomfortable and difficult are the greatest rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it forces you to actually do what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
You know, I remember signing up for an Ironman actually the first time that I was going to do one. And I'd done a half. And so I kind of knew what the training regimen needed to be. We're about a month out from my Ironman and I haven't trained because I had XYZ excuse.
Yeah.
I'm running summer teams. I'm trying to get a golden door.
Yeah.
And I hadn't trained and I was like, crap, I have like 30 days. And I let another week go by before I started training. So now I'm like 3 weeks out from this Ironman. People train for Ironmans for like 9 months. And I'm not recommending this, by the way, but that's what I did. And so I was like, I told my dad, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do the Ironman. Like, I don't think it's smart. I don't have enough time, things like that. And he's like, well, you know, it's your commitment that you made, not mine. So I don't really care what you're doing. I was like, frick, thanks a lot, Dad. So I trained really hard for 3 weeks. I went and did my Ironman. I finished it and I literally collapsed at the end. Wow. Like my adrenaline wore off after like 5-10 minutes. I was like shaking. My body like started to shut down. They like found me on the ground somewhere and took me to the med tent, filled me with a bunch of fluids, and I was fine after that. But like I paid the consequence of not training, but I learned something about myself that like, hey, you can do the things you set out to do. And I suffered a lot because I didn't train. So I learned 2 valuable lessons there, but I learned something about myself that day. Like if I wouldn't have done that Ironman, I would have had to sit back and be like, dang, I didn't do something that I set out to accomplish. And I'm like a fraud in a way to myself. And like I said, I suffered big. I threw up. I kind of like probably even pooped my pants a little bit, all that nasty stuff about the Ironman, but I can now look back and say like, I do difficult things. My name's Tanner Williams and I finish what I say I'm going to finish, and I do what I say
Nice.
I'm going to do. Like that's huge. That's
Yeah.
like one of my cookies in my cookie jar all the time.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah,
You can't argue with that, man.
yeah, exactly.
I freaking love that, dude. You're
Thank you.
such a stud.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks
Really
for having me.
appreciate
It's
it.
been super fun.
Oh, the audience is lucky to be able to listen to you. Where can they find you on social media? What's your handle on Instagram?
Yeah, it's it's thetanner.williams.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
fun
The
stuff.
Tanner.Williams.
Yep.
Love it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Guys,
man.
go give him a follow. Check him out.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Thanks,
Nick.
brother.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.